Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, here with another review, this time for Goosebumps 2023 Season 1. Now, just to jump into this show, I am actually a fan of the Goosebumps books, and I can see this show getting some mixed reactions from people who are hardcore fans of the books, because the thing with the show, and I even was mixed on it in the first few episodes, I was like, do I really like this? I'm like, well, that's kind of cool, but then I was like, well, this show sucks, and then I was like, no, I kind of do like it. Overall, I will say it was good. This was a good season of this show. I'd give it a solid 3 out of 4. But still is going to be a conflicting show for people in terms of reactions to it, like overall. And the reason why is because it's not really an adaptation of the books. It's not. Basically, what this show does is it's one long story as opposed to like um, different books like centered on different characters. It's one long story centered on a specific group of characters. And Justin Long is really good here, playing multiple different like versions of himself or whatever, or different versions of his character. Like he's playing like his character possessed, or he's just playing his character, which is pretty fun. And he does a really good job here. He has a teacher who does get possessed by this dude or whatever, who was like this teenager who was kind of awkward and ended up finding like Slappy the dummy, who was basically this evil dummy, who gets him to do like evil things. And you find out towards the end of the show that he basically wants to like turn living people into dummies so he can sacrifice them on this pyre or whatever to resurrect all these monsters into the real world, because he feels like if humanity has something to fight against or rally against, they won't kill each other. Okay, interesting plan, but at the same time, it does kind of change the Slappy character by the end. And Slappy's really the main villain of the show. It does kind of change the Slappy character, though. It makes him more of like a slightly sympathetic kind of villain, even though he's still pretty much pure evil in the show. Um, it does change him. I do prefer the more just pure evil version from the books. But like I was saying, the thing with this show is it's not really Goosebumps. Not really. It's more like a rebooted version of Goosebumps of the material. It's much darker than the books in tone. The acting in the show is good. I don't think any of the teenager characters are bad or anything. There is a gay character in the show, which is fine. But from time to time, he does have kind of like a cliche, like I'm gay line. But overall, his character was still good. All the characters in this are good. Some of them, like the actors, do kind of look similar, so every now and then they kind of blend together, like some of the moms or whatever do in the show. But overall, nobody's bad here. Everybody does good. It's centered on one group of characters who become friends or whatever and get developed through the show. But like I was saying, in terms of the show, it's not really an adaptation of the books. They take like random kind of things from the books and random book titles, like how to eat fried worms and stuff like that, and Welcome to Horrorland and stuff, and they just kind of cherry pick elements from the Goosebumps books and use them for specific story points in their show, in their season of the show, of the story that they're telling. But that's what I'm saying. This is not an adaptation of Goosebumps. This is like a reboot of the world of Goosebumps. And that's why this is going to be conflicting for people, because if you're judging this as an adaptation of Goosebumps, of using elements from the books or whatever, you're not going to like this. At most, you'll probably think it's mediocre. Um, it's a bad, with some good elements in terms of tone and acting. And that's why I wasn't really digging the show at first, but then later through the show, eventually I just started to accept it for what it was. This is its own thing, and as its own show, this is good. This is a 3 out of 4. This is a good show. It is better as a show than the original Goosebumps cheesy show that came on in the 90s, but that is a better Goosebumps show, if you get what I'm saying. That's a better like adaptation of the books, despite like the low budget and the really bad effects at times, and that's and hammy acting, 90s TV bad acting. That works better as an adaptation of the books, and there's still some cheesy charm to that show, despite the fact it's honestly not a great show. At most, as a whole, it was most of the episodes were just kind of all right. But for what it was, as a whole, it was like an all right cheeseball show, like B level to C level show in terms of special effects and everything. Like the show Are You Afraid of the Dark, that I think used to come on like maybe Nickelodeon. I'm not for sure. That was a way better show. That was either Nickelodeon or Disney Channel. I'm not for sure, but that was way better than the Goosebumps show. It was, honestly, like the original Goosebumps show. People have nostalgia for it and everything, but it's really not a good show if you actually watch it, rewatch it. There is some good episodes in there, but it's really not a good show. But it is a better adaptation of Goosebumps than what this is. This is not Goosebumps. This is a supernatural teen show with a darker tone, that just happens to use elements of the Goosebumps lore and material. And some people are going to dislike it because of that. Me, I started to accept it for what it was once I got partway through the first season, and I judged it just as a show. And just as a show, this was a good, solid season of a show. This was enjoyable. The twists at the end or whatever, after they expel like the ghost dude or whatever who's possessed Justin Long like from his body, he's the villain for the majority of it, who's like possessed Justin Long. After they expel him out of there, and he leaves to the afterlife with his parents because he learns, he finally realizes that Slappy the Dummy or whatever is evil has been motivating him to do bad things. After he leaves, and then Justin Long's like regular teacher character kind of becomes the villain. Well, Slappy's really the villain, but I say Justin Long's character because you learn more backstory on him. How he's kind of like this lonely dude who wants to be a successful writer, and he kind of writes about all the events that's happened, but he can't come up with an ending for his story that would justify his, I guess, their editors or whatever, or publication company, whatever you want to call it. But so he goes out and actually brings Slappy back, and he makes a deal with Slappy to get to get a better ending, and or a twist ending, I should say, which is what Goosebumps books are kind of famous for. So they do try to keep some elements of the books intact here. But of course, that goes to hell in the handbasket, and Slappy gets his human form back, which is what he was really wanting. And the guy who plays like the human version of Slappy, he does a good job. He was like this. He was like this soul. I'm sorry if you hear a dog barking in the background. I'm doing this video in my house, and yes, I have pets in this house, and they are kind of loud. But and the guy who plays the human form of Slappy or whatever, he was like this soldier or whatever who accidentally got injured and fell into this tomb, and he used the magic written on the walls to like heal himself. And then by the end, they kind of outsmart him by tricking him and using magic against magic and undoing the spell where he healed himself, and he basically gets took to hell. But then you get to the end, and even though Justin Long's character like helps him defeat Slappy at the end, they still kind of want to punish him because it's his fault that the main kid or whatever who takes the bullet for the chick that he likes. They still kind of want to kind of punish Justin Long's character at the end because the main boy or whatever getting shot is technically his fault. So at the end of the season, the girl who kind of has a crush on him or has a thing for him throughout the show, the main boy, she uses the same spell or whatever that Slappy used to heal himself when he was a soldier to heal him, heal the character Isaiah, who's like the main kid of the show. And he gets healed, and then Justin Long's character is like in the bathroom, and he feels really bad about what's happened. He's looking in the bathroom mirror, and he sees that Slappy has his spirit has now like invaded his body, and he's like, "Oh, not again!" And that's how it cuts off on like a cliffhanger ending. It's kind of funny. At the same time, it does leave it off on the cliffhanger, and I believe the cliffhanger was actually resolved in like an audio book adaptation of it, but that's not the same. So the show, in terms of like just canon for the show, it just kind of leaves off. Now, even though it does kind of leave off, you could, in each season is, from what I've heard, is just a different story, and there's only been 2 seasons so far. It's just those are just different stories. So you could bring like Justin Long's character back for another season in the future, and just have it to where Slappy's still in his body, and you could do like a kind of like a totally different. You could have like a whole new group of kids or whatever, and just have a whole new Slappy story or whatever reason inside Justin Long's body. Like you get what I'm saying. But yeah, that was meant to be ironic or whatever, and kind of his punishment for fucking everything up and making it worse again. So it does have that kind of cliffhanger ending that the Goosebump books are famous for. So, but I can also see some people not liking that because this is kind of this is pretty much his own kind of show. So I can see some people being like, wait, that's it? These characters aren't coming back for a second season? Because once you do like long stories like this stretched out for a whole season with the same characters, when it comes time for like next season or whatever, some people are going to be pissed when you don't bring back the same characters. I can see that happening, and that may be a weakness of this show. I haven't seen season 2 yet. The characters in the second season may not be as interesting. But overall, for this first season as a show, this was good. It's a 3 out of 4. This is a good supernatural teen show. Some of the teen like stuff does borderline on melodrama at times. Like, you like him, but I like you. It's like, okay, love triangle bullshit. But overall, this was a good show. Justin Long was really good in it. Yeah, it's a solid 3 out of 4. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.